RNZ's CEO has admitted the public broadcaster didn't bother to ask for an additional frequency for its proposed youth channel before going public with plans to take Concert off FM in favour of the new station. Last week, RNZ revealed its plans to transform Concert into an automated nonstop music station, which will stream online and play on AM radio. The Prime Minister yesterday expressed her frustration with RNZ, saying the broadcaster had been asked to put its plans on hold to give the government a chance to look at alternatives, but RNZ went public anyway, creating a backlash from Concert fans. Now the government's looking at freeing up the 102 frequency for the new youth channel, allowing Concert to stay on FM. I asked RNZ CEO Paul Thompson if this had been the strategy all along.
We're not smart enough to have conjured up a plan like that. It is a very positive outcome. How we got there was very bumpy and rocky, and I wouldn't advise it to anyone. But look, we do think that it's really affirming that the government has endorsed our strategy, which is that RNZ needs to become more relevant to younger people, and that a new music service is a great way of doing that, whilst at the same time reaffirming that RNZ Concert has got a very passionate set of listeners and supporters, and there's a future for that brand as well on FM.
I want to talk more about that brand, but did you actually bumble this strategy?
No, not at all. This was always going to be enormously difficult to explain as a strategy because originally, as we conceived the strategy, it was about a trade-off of making a difficult decision of the FM network being prioritised for the younger audience brand, and that meant a big change for Concert. So however we went to explain that, however carefully we did it, whatever work we did with stakeholders, it was always going to be a tough sell. But it is a measure of the board and my commitment to the need for RNZ to become more relevant to younger people that we gritted our teeth and began this process last week. As it turns out, the feedback has been really intense. We expected it to be intense, and it was right at the upper end of what we expected, and is, as I've said, really positive. I think that the government has provided us with an option to do both, and that was the key message, I think, from the Prime Minister yesterday.
Well, the Prime Minister suggests that there was a key message that they were willing to help you much earlier than yesterday, so let's explore that. She has stated clearly that Radio New Zealand was asked to hold fire and give the government time to consider a solution. Was that request made of Radio New Zealand? Who did it come from and when? Look,
I'm not going to get into the ins and outs of what the Prime Minister
has
said.
The ins and outs are really important here, very significant.
I will respond, but I do want to just make one thing clear. As Chief Executive, I'm not responsible for communication with our shareholders, but putting that aside, we did believe that we had carefully briefed everyone we needed to about our plans, but there was a miscommunication on one key point, and that key point on whether we would be talking publicly about the loss of Concert on FM, and I think that's where there was a miscommunication, and that led to that gap. And look, it's unfortunate, and we had to take our medicine, if you like, but it did come down to a miscommunication on that point.
Okay, so whose miscommunication?
I think that we obviously didn't explain it clearly enough, and when we were talking about our plan, there was an assumption that it wouldn't be obvious initially that the FM transmission would be affected, and I think that was just a glitch in the communications.
Sorry, I'm to interrupt, Paul, but I just want to be clear about this. When you say there was a miscommunication, are you saying that it was not clear that you wished to move Concert off FM?
I think what the miscommunication was, it was about whether in the initial discussions around the proposal, whether that would be part of the discussion, and I think that was just a miscommunication. And so that's the only. It is I think easy to exaggerate the importance and the effects of that. It happened, and it wasn't ideal, and we've had to deal with the consequences. But I think the bigger point really is that the government and RNZ are now on the same page, which is really good.
It's taken some time to get there, though, and it is important. Yep. The point made by the Prime Minister is significant. She says that Radio New Zealand was asked to give the government this window of opportunity. Was this message communicated to RNZ?
All I can say is that we believe that we'd done our briefing thoroughly, but there was that miscommunication. That's all I can say.
So have you apologised to the Broadcasting Minister, Chris Farfoy?
No, but I know that the chairman of RNZ and the minister have had lots of discussions on this, and you'd have to talk to them, but I don't think there is any lingering issue.
So did you not realise that you were being asked to take a breath here?
As I've said, it's a miscommunication.
All right, because it looks like you ignored a request from the Broadcasting Minister.
And look, we would not do that, but sometimes, particularly when you're dealing with complex issues, there will be a miscommunication.
The Prime Minister has also said that the changes that you are proposing, more than operational changes, that it's structural. So the suggestion is that perhaps you overstepped. Did you, in your plans?
I don't believe we did, but no one's ever tried to do something like this before, and it is a significant proposal. We certainly believe that we were acting within our responsibilities as a board and as a management team. And that would always be tested in future. Every year we have to prepare a statement of performance expectations which outlines the range of services. So there was going to always be opportunities to engage with the government, with our shareholder, on any service changes.
Because obviously some legal minds believe that the Radio Communications Act designates a particular channel for Concert FM and that it would require some kind of legislation to change that. Did you take legal advice on that, and is that your belief?
Yes, we have taken legal advice on that. We are aware that we would have had to have that signed off as part of our annual statement of performance expectation negotiations with the government.
So that was
always going to be part of the plan.
So you were always needing the government rubber stamp to push forward?
Yes, we would have provided a proposal and there would have been feedback, and we would have, in the end it has to be signed by the minister.
Okay, so now that there is this suggestion that there is an additional FM frequency potentially available, are you still going to go ahead with the other changes on Concert? Automation, shorter bulletins?
We're just thinking about things at the moment because these events have happened quite quickly in the last 24 hours, but we're going to take a few days to digest it, and we're obviously going to be working very carefully with staff on what this means.
So you're reversing your original proposal?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that I'm going to take a couple of days and work with the team and have a think about it, but we do have a consultation underway with staff, and any communication and decisions around that need to be done with the staff, not on checkpoint, I'm afraid. So you're going to have to give me a couple of days to work that through.
So why do you think the changes are necessary, the ones that you are considering, the automation, shortening of bulletins? Well,
the nub of the issue is that our charter requires us to be relevant to all New Zealanders, and at the moment RNZ does need to work very hard to connect with younger people. And that's one of the priorities that the government has set for us in the last few years, is to connect with more young people, more Māori and more Pacifica and regional audiences. So we can't stand still, but we only have a limited amount of resource to support all the things that we want to do. So the changes that we initially proposed for Concert were designed to free up resource so that we could staff our new service for young people.
So you openly acknowledge that one is at the expense of the other?
Everything we do as an organisation, there are always trade-offs, and we have always operating within a limited budget, and we need to do a lot of soul searching and take some hard decisions on the best use of that money, and it will always have an element, unless you're funded to do something that's new, fully funded to do something, you have to move your funding around. Otherwise, an organisation like RNZ will just get stuck for decades, and I don't think any media organisation these days can stand still.
So does that suggest that 18 to 35-year-olds have more value than the listeners of Concert, who are generally over the age of 65?
Absolutely not. And I think, you know, the intense feedback we've had from our concert listeners, and I would like to thank them for it, it's been very forthright, has underlined the importance of our service to them. But we know that RNZ looks after older audiences very well across all our platforms, including RNZ National Concert and our website. And we do need to broaden our footprint, if you like. We need to become relevant to young people, or in a few years' time, we're going to be irrelevant to everyone. We just need to connect. So that's just a difficult trade-off. The really good thing about what's happened is we've been given an opportunity to do both. And I think that really is exciting. And look,
but even if you are given that opportunity, what you are suggesting is that the costs of having live announcers is prohibitive. So, is it a funding issue? If the government gives you more money, can you maintain concert as it is, exactly as it is? And would you?
I don't want to be drawn into this because I want to talk with the staff.
Why not?
First,
it's
Lisa.
The nub of the issue.
Because my priority at the moment is to talk with our staff who are affected. I think most of your listeners would understand that.
While you say you haven't made decisions, you're already advertising these jobs, so you're going down a path already, yet you're reluctant to discuss why.
Just make sure, clarify that. We have advertised for one role in the new brand. That's all we're doing. It's one position. In terms of what RNZ Concert will be in future, we're taking our time to think about all the feedback. I think I really need to be thoughtful around all the feedback we've had, the changes in terms of what the government's announced, and working with my team to get the best possible result. I will say that RNZ will continue to have a really strong classical music service, and the events of the last 24 hours have helped us do that.
Can you describe the flavour of the new brand, as you put it?
I'm not the right person to do that, and when we get to the point of staffing it and recruiting it, it will be staffed. But
as CEO, you must be able to describe this band that you're placing a lot of value on.
No, I think I'm the wrong person to do it. I mean, seriously, we know where the audience opportunity is. It's for 18 to 34-year-olds. We know it's going to play a lot of New Zealand music. It will play more New Zealand music than anything else in the market. It will play more live performance of New Zealand artists than anything in the market. But it has to be staffed and run by people who are of the audience we're trying to reach. Those people are not in the organisation as yet in large numbers. We're going to have to recruit them.
Right, so you're going to need money for this, aren't you? So how much? Yes, put a number on it.
Look, I actually don't have the figure at my fingertips, and it's not something I'd share here anyway, but we do see a pathway. No, I'm not going to do it, Lisa. It's not something I'm going to do on air. What I can say is that we're confident.
It's public money though, so why can't you be upfront about it?
Because we're still working through elements of the proposal with the government and with staff, so I just don't think it's fair. And in the end, we think we can do a great job and create, I don't know whether any listeners are familiar with Triple J in Australia, but broadly speaking, we'd like to do something which has some of those qualities. It's public radio, it's commercial free, it's charter driven, it plays a lot of New Zealand music, and it's staffed, it looks and sounds like young New Zealand.
So what specific research have you done about this group, the 18 to 35, the so-called, well, you call them social connectors, don't you? So what research have you done about exactly what they want from this, and what are they telling you?
Look, there's a range of information that we rely upon, but our segmentation work, which you've just mentioned,
but specifically your research?
Yes, that is our research. We did it with Colmar Brunton last year. It's a significant segmentation of the New Zealand market. But look, this new brand will be developed over a number of months, and we'll be doing more research to fine-tune our insights and our plan as we go through. This is how things happen.
But what's that initial research telling you about what they want?
That those audiences at the moment do not connect with RNZ, that they are looking for news which reflects their world and their perspectives and their voices, and that they're really interested in music.
What kind of music? What are they telling you about that?
All kinds of music. They are very open in terms of genre. I think the power of Spotify is that people are sort of ranging across a range of genres in their listening, but they want music that is relevant to them. But that will be done by our programming team who we hire and bring in. It's not something that's done by the CEO. I'd be the last person who'd want to do that.
What's your time frame for getting this sorted?
I think that's a question mark, because obviously things have changed, and as I said, I need a couple of days to just reflect on what's happened and decide on what happens.
It was May, wasn't it? It was May, the time frame for taking Concert off FM, wasn't it?
Well, that's been removed because we're keeping Concert on FM, so people don't need to worry about that. I would have thought in the next 2 or 3 months we will have resolved the issue around the new network, and we'll have resolved next steps in terms of where we're taking the new brand. So it's going to happen. It's going to all happen in the next 6 months still, and within that, obviously, Concert's going to continue on FM.
So when you say within the next 6 months, will the new brand be on air within 6 months?
That feels to me like a stretch, because part of this will require us to build a whole new network. But I would have thought, even if the network is not fully built, we'll be well advanced with our plans by that stage.
Do you think there would have been what appears to be a reversal in fortunes here if it wasn't for the fact that people like Helen Clark, Dame Kitty Te Kanawa, Chris Finlayson and some other QCs didn't get vocal about this situation?
I have no idea, and you'd have to ask the government about that, the ministers about that. What I think is that the idea of a new service for young New Zealanders is a compelling one. These frequencies that have been tagged to our project, they've languished on the shelf for more than 20 years. They were set aside for a youth radio network. They've never been used for that. So I think what's more driven this is the opportunity around doing something really positive in public broadcasting. At a time when the New Zealand media is under a lot of strain, this is a very good news story about providing something new and trusted.
Given that you were looking to set up a youth radio network, did you ask for another frequency?
No, we didn't.
Why not?
And the reason for that is those frequencies have always sat there, and there's been various attempts to deploy them, and there was absolutely no signal that that was on the agenda until we started to unfold this plan.
Isn't that an oversight on your part? Wouldn't that be an elementary thing to request another frequency?
Look, you can make that comment. In my view, this is all just part of quite a difficult process.
Did you go off half-baked with this?
No. Look, it's easy to sit on the sidelines and say, why did that happen like that? But this was always going to be an incredibly difficult project. However you tried to explain it. We'll take our knocks, we'll take, the bumps that we've had. But if you look at where we've arrived at, we're in a much better position now to develop a range of services for a wider range of New Zealanders. And yes, the debate around Concert has been fraught for us, I admit that. It's been really intense, but such is the passion with which people believe in that brand, that was always going to be really difficult. And our dilemma is, do we do nothing? Do we get stuck? Do we try to do something and move it forward? And we've done that, and I think the overall result has been positive.
Do you think that this looks particularly competent when we're potentially looking at a merger between TVNZ and RNZ, and you don't seem to be able to even get the launch of a new radio channel?
Well, it's a bit early to be saying that, Lisa. I think we're 6 days into this project, which was always going to be really difficult.
The board decided on this in December, so you're not 6 days into it, are you?
No, in terms of communicating it with staff and with the community. So I think it's a bit premature to be making that judgment. I have full confidence in RNZ's ability to rise to this challenge. We've been given a massive leg up with the government's support for our strategy. All I would say is watch this space. We're going to do something that's never been done before. It's not going to be easy, but I'm absolutely sure it will work.
So do you think you'll throw your hat into the ring for running the merged organisation, TVNZ and RNZ? Is that something you would like to pursue?
We don't even know whether it's going to be created yet. We're in a position of a business case which will test the idea. I'll contribute some ideas to that, and I'm thinking no further than the next 12 months.
You don't know if you'd like to be the boss of that?
No, I don't. I mean, what is it going to be? Is it going to happen? I don't know, and I certainly don't intend to talk about my career plans on Checkpoint.
Do you doubt that it's going to happen?
Look, I think there's and I applaud the government for this. I think there is a real intent there to do something very positive for public broadcasting. I'm really encouraged by the process that's been set up, but the business case will actually tell us whether this idea will work, whether it's viable, whether it will deliver on the objectives. So the first step is to figure out what the business case says.
And that's RNZ CEO Paul Thompson. We did ask Broadcasting Minister Chris Farfoy to come on the program this evening, but he declined.